Well, good morning, and thank you all for coming out on this wonderfully rainy day. Our guests have arrived from Tishomingo. I don't know if you've ever driven to Tishomingo and back, but it's not like a fun roadway. So we're glad they made it here on time and safe, and we're glad you all are here. And for those of you who are joining this Facebook Live or Facebook Not So Live later, we're very glad that you all are here with your interest. I'm going to turn it over to Malika Horton, who is the Clinical Career Mobility Coordinator for Murray State. And we also have with us Deanna Pretty, who is the Director of Murray State Nursing Program. So we're very excited to hear what they have to offer us and you all and our team members. And please share this with your friends also. And she's mine, so give her grace. Lots of grace. Good morning.
Good morning.
I did the driving and we made it safe, so it's always a good start. As she said, my name is Malika Horton. I am the Career Mobility Coordinator or Instructor. They're interchangeable for right now, and then there's some changes going on. But it is my pleasure to have my mentor with me, Ms. Deanna Pretty. She is our program director. She is the everything of Murray State Nursing Program. So she has been with Murray State for a little over 8 years, and she is very knowledgeable in all things. So before we get into the presentation, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on me. I do this sometimes, and then each time I cry less and less. So hopefully we can get through this without y'all shedding tears or me. But I'm going to give you a little background. How many of you are LPNs or paramedics? Okay. So not every path is made for everybody. Okay, some of us have to go around the world and back again before we get to where we need to be, and I was one of those people. So I dropped out of high school in the 9th grade, got pregnant at 17. Woo-hoo. I won't tell you how old she is now because then y'all know how old I am. But I was blessed to have, for the father of my child to love me enough to basically put up with me all these years, but not only marry me, but push me to be better and to do better for myself, because I was content. He had a job and he took care of us, and that was enough for me. But that was not enough for him. So he pushed me. I went back and got my GED. Didn't know what I wanted to do. He moved me to Oklahoma. That was all the downfall. He moved me to Oklahoma from Georgia. But I've been here for a while, and I kind of, it's growing on me. Still not a farmer, but it's okay. Meaning I don't like the outdoors. Not my thing. But I got here. We were pregnant with our second child, and she was stillborn. And the nurses in the hospital made me feel like what was the worst day of my life was not going to be the last day of my life, and I wanted to do that for somebody. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know how to go about it. So I quit my job back then, and I was making like $8.50 an hour. Have y'all heard of 1-800-FLYERS.com? If you call, you talk to me. And I was making $8.50 an hour, which, you know, for a 19-year-old is big time. And I quit my job, and I got a job working as a nurse aide, and I made $6.55 an hour. So it was probably about the first time he ever wanted to divorce me. But I figured if I could make it as a nurse aide in a nursing home, that I could make it as a nurse. And so that's what I did. And then I said, okay, I got to change things, because nursing homes, we don't take care of our elderly, so I got to change things. So I went and got my CMA so I could pass meds. How many of y'all did that before? Think you're going to change stuff by being a med aide? I was afraid of my med aides, so I was going to be a med aide, and I was going to change stuff. You laughing, but it was true. And I became a med aide, and I was like, you know what? The charge nurse in the nursing home is who actually does things. They get the job done, they change things. So I'm going to go and get my LPN. I didn't know how to do that. I was thankful. We have a VOTEC in Ardmore where I lived, and I only got my LPN. And I went back to the nursing homes. And I was like, you know what? You are not going to change anything as an LPN. Like, hey, you don't do anything. So that went on for years. I changed what I did. Nursing home was my love. I despise it, but I love it, and I was kind of good at it. So I stayed there from time to time, PRN, usually giving up my whole weekend. Some of us know what that's like. And I started working for home health. I worked for a surgeon, and I stayed there for about 9 or 10 years, give or take some time. She says it felt like about 15, but it really wasn't that long. So in the course of all this, I got a job as a CNA instructor, and I said, I can do this. I can teach people. I really, really like this. So I did some research. I talked to some people, and in order to teach, guess what you have to do? You have to go back to school. So I went home and I told my darling husband. So on top of the 3 jobs that I have and the 4 kids that we now have, I'm going to go back to school. He was like, okay, where's your schedule and what do I need to do? So I started with my basics because, again, I was a high school dropout. I had no college education whatsoever. I did know that none of my credits from my LPN would transfer over because it was a vocational school. So I went back, I got my basics, and I'm chicken. So if y'all haven't figured it out, I'm chicken. I don't like to do things that I'm not good at. So I'm not good at testing, and I did not want to take a standardized test. I just did not want to do it. But Murray State, as it had at that point in time, had a standardized test. Took the HESI the first time and passed it. I was very proud of myself. So I did that. I got accepted into the career mobility program. I was super proud of myself. I thought I was big time at that point. Got accepted into the career mobility program, and I started. And I had, at that point, 3 jobs, a husband, and 4 kids. A quarter way through, I had 2 jobs, a husband, and 4 kids. And then about halfway through, I had 1 job, a husband, and 4 kids. As I progressed through the program, I realized that I had to give up and give away certain things in order to be successful. And that was hard, but it was okay. I made it through. My daughter, who has, I tell her all the time that she changed my life. Most people say, you're not going to have your husband pin you. I'm like, nah, he didn't do anything. No, but my daughter, she walked across the stage and she pinned me, which was an awesome moment because when I was in school, she was small to her younger siblings. Fast forward, and COVID hit. I was living life. I knew I wanted to teach, and so I finished my associate's degree, went right into my bachelor's degree, and then started my master's because I knew what I wanted to do. And that's okay if you don't know what you want to do. You've got the rest of your life to figure it out, so don't worry about that part. But in the midst of all this, COVID hit. And like most hospital systems, the hospital system I worked for was greatly impacted. So what did I do? I quit my job and I drove to OU every day and worked on the trauma unit. And while I was there, I got a phone call and it was like, hey, so I know you just left your job and you went to OU. Do you still want to teach? I'm like, heck yeah, I want to teach. Okay, follow these steps. I did all the things, and here I am, and I'm not looking back. I tell that story not so you feel bad for me, because please don't. There are people who have been 10 times worse than me, and they made it leaps and bounds further than I have. I tell you that story so that you know that it doesn't matter how you start. It doesn't matter what your path is and where it takes you. What matters is that you keep going and that you reach your ultimate goal. So I set goals for myself, and I did not stop until I reached those goals. And if I can do it, poor little old girl from inner city of Atlanta with a 9th grade high school education, then absolutely believe in yourself that you can. So y'all ready for the good stuff? Okay. Believe it or not, I'm not a public speaker, y'all. I'm really not. And then they gave me a bigger.
It doesn't work.
Did it work earlier? It probably does. I'm probably just not doing it right.
Okay. Did it work?
See, I told you I wasn't doing it right. So the career mobility program started in 2009. We started with one entry point in August or the fall. You'll hear us refer to the fall. That's usually August start. And had 15 slots for LPNs. The available seating has gone to 25 slots in here recent years. In 2020, they added a second start, which is in January. And it changed the available seating to 50. So even if you don't get to come in the fall, spring is an option. Okay, so don't feel like I've got to get everything done right now because class starts in August and I have to wait a whole nother year. You don't have to wait another year. You can come in January. Currently, we have 63 students in 2 separate cohorts. Currently, we have 40 in our first semester, and we're graduating 23 in our second semester. So, and it's grown. Let's see if I can do this right. So, our first-time pass rates for career mobility since 2011, our first-time pass rate have been a minimum of about 84%, and that's even through COVID. Okay. Overall, nursing schools, if you do your research, nursing schools are noticing a drop in the first-time pass rate since COVID. Things change, lots of, clinicals, people are doing clinical less. Most programs are trying to push nurses through so that they can graduate and get them out. I will tell you that's not what Murray State does. We're not going to just push you through so that you can get done. Because at the end of the day, what we want is for you to be safe when you're practicing. I want to come to Duncan and I want to see your face and I want to say, I want to have a sigh of relief because I know how you were educated. I know how you were trained. I want to be comfortable working alongside of you. Who knows, with many of my 50 jobs, I might decide for you. We have a 90% completion rate, which is pretty good. If anything else, it should show you that we have a commitment to make sure that you are successful in the program. With that being said, you may not be necessarily happy with what I have to say, but it will benefit you in the end, okay? And you won't have to deal with me a lot. Again, like I said, my mentor, she's probably the best person that I know, and if she gets a hold of you, then you're definitely going to be successful. Job placement. At this point, we have a 100% job placement. Most of our graduates have a job before they graduate. Okay, we're pushing you to reach out to employers. You guys are in probably one of the best situations possible because your employer is pushing you to education. Your employer is making a commitment to you to make sure that you're successful and you can stay where you are, where you're comfortable, where you're happy, and stay home so you don't have to worry about looking for something. Our students, we have alumni in ICU, the emergency department, family birthplace, med-surg, surgery, all sorts of places. The sky's the limit. So what's required? You guys should have a degree sheet. We require a minimum of 2.5 GPA to start with. That's super important. If you're not as successful as you want to be in a course and you're under a 2.5, correct me if I'm wrong, you won't be able to graduate. Even if you finish the program successfully, your second time around, it'll be hard for you to graduate, okay? Because you have to have a certain GPA in order to receive a degree.
Let me interject just a little bit right there. So
We require a 2.5 GPA when you start, because if you make less than a 2.0 GPA, you won't be able to get the degree. So the 2.5 allows for C's in the courses that you'll be taking. So the minimum to graduate is 2.0. We require entry of 2.5 to give that cushion. And then we also require a 3.0 on the pre-nursing requisites, which are going to be your sciences and things like that. But we'll talk to you more about that later on.
Any questions about that? Don't worry if you know your GPA was not where it needed to be. There's one-on-one conversations. Your advisor will be Mrs. Pretty, so she's really good at making sure that you get to where you need to be, okay?
So on that, it says all sciences should be taken prior, so does that mean that you don't have to have all of your prereqs prior to?
So the question is, the slide says all sciences. Does that mean that you do not have to have all your other prereqs prior to coming to the program?
Historically, we made all of the students have all of the prerequisites prior to coming in. Now we require the sciences, which are your AP1 and AP2 and micro. And then your other courses can be taken along with your nursing courses, but you have to realize that if you're working full-time and all of that, then that's going to add to it. So that's why we do an individualized plan for each person to make sure, because I'll ask you, how much do you work? How much, how is your family? Do you have, like us, we have children that are in sports and things like that. So we try to design it that way. So we'll advise you, if you have a lot going on outside, then you might want to get all the prerequisites and then come in and do the nursing course. The nursing course is only 2 semesters. So if you don't have any prereqs except your sciences, then you're going to have to do all the other prerequisites in those 2 semesters, which would be tough on family and work life and things like that. And we don't want to interfere with that. We want to make sure that you are not set up for failure. We want to set you up for success. So I'll be asking a lot of questions about that, and each person is going to be individual. But the minimum requirement is that you have your AP1 and your AP2 with a C or higher. And all the nursing prerequisites have to be at a C or higher. Any questions about that? Okay.
Abby has a question.
Initially you said AP1, AP2, and microbiology, and then you said AP1 and AP2. So
We can work on the micro,
okay,
but the AP1 and AP2 are the minimum requirements. Also, our traditional students, that's a good question. Our traditional students are required to have a biology prerequisite. You guys aren't required to have a biology prerequisite because that's a foundational course. You guys have the foundational courses in your programs, your LPN and paramedic programs. So you've already had AP1 and AP2 in those programs, so that's your foundation. So we don't require you to take the biology foundational course because you already have that. So that's how we get just AP1 and AP2. And I'll talk to you a little more about that in a bit. We have those courses offered online in the summer. They're in 5-week courses, and so it's going to take a lot of time and concentration. So that will be individual conversations that we'll have to see if you want to try to get those done in the summer and progress in the fall, or if you want to take a step back and have a semester to get prerequisites. And some of you may already have some prerequisites out of the way. And so every conversation is going to be a little bit different. But just we want you to know that the minimum requirement is AP1 and AP2. Okay.
Good questions. So, as she said, the program is designed to be completed in 2 semesters. You can come in August and you graduate in May. You can come in January, you graduate in December. Okay. Most of our students can work full-time jobs, not full-time plus. Okay.
Not COVID hours.
Not COVID hours. Okay, we all know what full-time plus is. I put my 36 weeks in, but then I sign up and my 36 hours in, but then I sign up and I do 2 extra shifts. Okay, if you do that, you're not going to have the 18 to 27 hours a week that you need to devote to your schoolwork. And if you do, then you're cutting something else out. You're cutting out self-care, which is huge. I'll tell y'all a story. It's funny. I used to go, and my students will tell you, my favorite word was, or term was, there are no breaks in nursing school. I was dead wrong. There are definitely breaks in nursing school. Lots of breaks. I had a student bring me a cup that said "Tears of my students," because I was like, suck it up, there are no breaks in nursing school. There are breaks in nursing school. You have to have self-care. If you don't have self-care, then you're not going to be, your brain can't continue to work and process. So you have to take time. You have to care for yourself. And then if you have families, you have children, you need to not miss a ball game. You need to not miss that gymnastics meet or that cheer contest. You need to be able to be there for those things. If your kid is in orchestra and it's the first time that they're doing a solo, you need to be able to be there for those things.
The beauty of our program, and I don't know how much you know about the program, but the beauty of our program is it's hybrid online, which means you don't have any face-to-face classes. You don't have to come to campus for face-to-face anything. You have information that's given to you online. You have lecture recordings that you can watch at your convenience, which also helps with your job scheduling and things like that. So you'll have video lectures, you'll have assignments and things like that, and lots of interaction with your instructors. Our plan is, we have Vicki Case, who is a local who is interested in applying for the full-time faculty position, and so it'll be she and I that will be directing what you're doing online. Okay, so you don't have to have an individual, this is my time that I have to meet this class, other than your exams. Your exams, and then you'll have clinical the first semester, which will all be done at Duncan Regional, and then you will have preceptorship the second semester, which will be completed at Duncan Regional or somewhere in the Duncan area. So your schedule can be, it's Fridays and Saturdays. All of our clinicals are scheduled on Friday, Saturday. All of our exams are scheduled on Fridays. All of our simulations will be scheduled on Fridays. So you'll know ahead of time. We'll give you a calendar, and you'll know ahead of time when you have clinical, when you have simulation, and when you have an exam for the entire semester.
And exams aren't taken in Toshiba?
No, they will be taken here. I'm working on Board of Nursing approval. That's the one caveat that the Board of Nursing has, is we have to be fully approved through them if we do one exam on campus or any didactic teaching on campus. Simulation we can do and clinical we can do, but we're getting approval, board approval, seeking that so we can do the exams on this campus. Because we don't want you on the road 2 hours to Tisch and 2 hours back when that is family time, that is work time, that is homework time. And so we're trying to make this to where it can be so doable for you and not such a stressor. So does that answer the questions about how it plays out? So the first semester is clinical. Typically we do 7 to 10, 12-hour shifts of clinical. It just depends. And it's also going to depend on your skill set. So if you have lots of med-surg experience, you may get shifted to a different area. If you don't have med-surg experience, this is what we're seeing with a lot of our new graduate LPNs. They're coming straight to us and they don't have the clinical piece, or our paramedics that have never worked bedside. They're going to need a little more clinical experience to get them through. So we pattern that for you as well, and we have everything scheduled. The second semester, you will have exams, and then you'll have preceptorship. There won't be any clinical the second semester. You'll have preceptorship. And so what that does is that gives you the ability, we'll assign you with a registered nurse as directed by the Duncan administration. We'll assign you with a registered nurse, and you will take your schedule and that person's schedule, and you will write your own schedule based on that. So you have so much time to get it completed, but we don't tell you what days you have to go. Does that make sense? And it goes quickly. It's 2 semesters.
Just 2 semesters.
But I have to caution you, with us being able to offer this to you in 2 semesters, it is fast and furious. That's why I said no COVID pay, because I had students that were not being successful on their exams and things. When I talked to them, well, I got an opportunity to work for $100 an hour on a COVID shift, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, but we have to decide that pay right now, right this second, or we need to decide registered nurse pay from now on. And so that's why I caution you about that, because I know things are still short and tight and things like that. And your Duncan Regional Hospital has made a commitment to the students to help you with this process. And so I know they're going to be attuned to your needs and things like that, and they're going to be working with us very closely, so they're going to know what the expectations are. So just know that if you have to work 80 hours a week right now to pay your bills, you'll have to adjust before you come into the program. Does that make sense? Okay.
One of the things I tell my students is, if you give me 2 semesters, I'll help you get a lifetime. Okay? Any other questions about this? So we'll provide you with a calendar prior to the start of the semester, which you'll give to your employers, families. You might have to say no. You might not be able to make the nephew's birthday or the niece's, whatever is going on. Okay? You might have to make some sacrifices in there, but I promise you, if you commit yourself to 2 semesters, you'll have a whole lifetime. So your first semester, Ms. Pretty already explained, usually about 80 or so clinical hours. There's 3 simulations. Your second semester, give or take 16 clinical hours, and when we say clinical hours, this is a Board of Nursing clinical. We'll take you to the Board of Nursing. You may have a leadership assignment to do, and so we count those as clinical hours, and then 120 preceptor hours. As she explained to you guys, your preceptorship hours, that's your responsibility. I'm not going to tell you you have to precept Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. If you're working Friday, Saturday, Sunday this week, and there's nothing going on, then you can precept Monday, Tuesday. Give yourself a day to get some studying in or whatever you need to do, self-care, and then, you know, get back on your weekly schedule. We give you a certain amount of time, and you schedule, you're an adult, you schedule what you can do. Right now, our clinical locations, you guys won't have to worry about Mercy Ardmore, but you do have local rural health facilities, and Duncan Regional Hospital will be your primary clinical site. Just to give you a little bit more background, we have campuses all across Southern Oklahoma. Our main campus is in Tishomingo. Then there is the campus in Ardmore. We have a campus on the Southeastern University, Southeastern States, or Durant. Never get that. Durant. We have a campus. We have a program located on the Durant campus. And then you guys will be our core. So that's super exciting. And then thankfully, your hospital leadership had the forethought that lots of hospital leaderships did not. And you guys have a very beautiful building with awesome supplies and technology and things that make a nurse, y'all remember what it looks like when you see a really good thing? That's what we felt when we went over there and looked at that building. Okay, that's come on now, y'all know. That's what we felt when we looked at that building. There are universities that don't have as beautiful as a building with the state-of-the-art supplies and technology that you guys have. Your hospital leadership had a moment of clarity some years ago and said, we want this for our campus and our hospital and our community. And I don't know what they did. I need to pick somebody's brain because they made it happen. So you guys have everything that you need here. You don't have to drive to Tishomingo or to Ardmore to get that. It's here. So, the application process. The app period is open, effective.
So what we did was we had typically our application process, our application cycle opens the 1st of March, and then it ends the end of March. That was what we just closed over in Tishomingo. I think we had some Duncan residents that applied and that were that had everything for that application cycle. What we're doing now is we're opening an application cycle just for you guys, just for Duncan Regional. And so it's open from today until May 15th. Okay?
For fall admission?
Yes.
For fall admission.
For fall admission.
If you want to come in the fall. Now, that's going to take some individual talk and looking at your prereqs and things like that if you want to come in the fall. If you want to come in the spring, the application cycle will be, it'll fall back in line with the regular application cycle, which will be October. So it'll open October 1 and it'll end the end of October, and then that will be the application cycle that will start in January.
I keep forgetting there's a Facebook link, so in case you guys in the Facebook world did not hear that, the application period for the Duncan campus only has opened effective today, and it will close May 15th. If you have any questions, please contact Deanne Pretty, and her information is at the end of this presentation. She will work with you individually to make sure that you have all the things that you need in order to start if you want to start in August. There is a app period that opens October 1 and runs until the end of October for spring start. You have to have a current active LPN license or paramedic. Any paramedics in the building? As she said before, AP1 and AP2 with a grade of C or better. Any and everything else will be individualized, and you can speak with Mrs. Pretty after today, and she will kind of go through your transcripts with you or set up a time to meet with you individually so you can kind of get a better idea of what to expect moving forward, okay?
And you can take those prerequisites. I don't just advise you just on taking Murray prerequisites at Murray State. You can take those prerequisites at Cameron. You can take those prerequisites at OU. You can take those prerequisites wherever you need. I will still advise you on what you need to take and make sure that the courses that you're wanting to take at the different educational institute will carry over to ours. So don't think you have to take everything at Murray State, because you don't.
Are there any schools that you don't accept, like prereqs from?
If you have, like Southeastern, they take anatomy and physiology. So it's not that we don't take them, but you have to have both of those in order to start. We do AMQ, anatomy, physiology 1, anatomy, physiology 2. So if you just have anatomy, then you won't have all of that you need to start. Yes, ma'am.
I just tested SC and the T's for triple C when you guys are basically.
We don't require the T's for you guys to enter. Okay, we require the T's for our traditional students to enter, but what we found is the T's test is set up, and it's kind of like an ACT. It's set up similar to the ACT, and so for the adult learners that have been out of the program for a while, it may not be as easy for you to do well on that because you've been out of school for a bit, and so we don't require that. The requirements are if you have. How many of you have been licensed longer than 3 years? Okay, so if you've been licensed for 3 years or less, we do not have a entrance exam for you. You're fresh with school, you still know the process, all of your information is fresh, and so you won't have an entrance exam. For you guys, seasoned guys that have all the time in, there is we call it a challenge exam. It's a very basic exam. It's not anything like the T's or anything that you need to stress out about. It's very basic safety things, fundamental things that we want to make sure that you know or have a grasp of before you come in. And so we'll get those scheduled as soon as we find out how many people we have that need to take those. And we'll come here to the campus to do those entrance exams. Is that clear? So if you've been licensed 3 years or less, there is no entrance exam.
Yes, ma'am.
So the application period is going to be open for 2 weeks. Is that going to be after the application period?
We will do whatever we need to do to get this done. If you have prerequisites and you're going to be ready to go, I will make sure you get that challenge exam.
Yes, ma'am.
On your prerequisites, they have to get done in the, like a certain amount of time, like if they're older, like.
We'll look at those on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I just had a question. I graduated from Southern Tech in 2021, and I did see that they signed some kind of agreement with them that they need to get a pass for one of the classes. If that still apply to me since I just moved to Southern Tech?
There's not a pass for one of the classes. What we did with Southern Tech is the 3-year thing is, and then also we guarantee that you will have a guaranteed slot. We offer them 10 slots that are Southern Tech graduates.
Okay, thanks.
But just know that we're going to take care of our benefit people as well. Okay?
Any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
When we want to do like the actual application, do we go to those 3 weeks?
We brought you a
We brought you an application. I've been thinking ahead sometimes.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Could you say the website?
If you go to www.msc.edu, you have to click on programs, find nursing, and it'll take you through to the application process.
If they have any problems.
If you have any problems, you can email Deanne Pretty at Pretty, PRDDY at mscok.edu, and she will get you exactly what you need. Yes, ma'am.
Do y'all take financial aid?
Yes, ma'am.
We actually, I'm glad you asked that question because we actually recommend that you complete FAFSA even if you plan to pay out of pocket, because we have a lot of scholarships that you will qualify for, but you have to have a completed FAFSA in order to qualify for those. So Murray State offers scholarships. I know there's going to be different scholarships from different places.
We can find those online.
Yes, ma'am.
And we will send you, I will overload you with links and things like that and make sure that you have access to all those scholarships. But the requirement is you have to have a completed FAFSA, even if you don't plan to take out student loans or and you don't qualify for Pell and things like that. You have to have the completed FAFSA for a lot of those scholarships, so we want to make sure that you do that.
And sometimes they give us like days notice. They'll say, we've got X amount of dollars, we need some students. And because we get to know each of you as much as we possibly can, we can say this person will definitely, will be an applicant for this and things like that. And so if you have to go and apply for FAFSA and do all of this, then we may be running against a deadline that you don't want to. Not only that, I'm pretty sure if you talk to your leadership and things like that, they have, I think somebody said that there is a scholarship just if you live in this county.
I might as well jump in here. So we will, our foundation does have scholarship opportunities for students that will be attending on the Learning Center campus as well. But here at DRH, we do offer a loan that's paid back with a work commitment. So you could have all of your nursing program paid for by us with a 1-year work commitment, because it's a 1 year that we would pay for per class. So it's a 1-to-1 pay. Now that does not include your general education courses, but that is open to anybody, whether you're employed with DRH currently or not employed with DRH currently. As long as you're interested in working for DRH as an RN, it could be at JCH, could be any of our entities that have employ RNs. So a 1-year work commitment following that. If you are currently a DRH team member, or if you're not but you're interested in becoming one, we do offer for your general ed courses. Of course, there's a tuition reimbursement program through HR. That's just a benefit of employment. So there's plenty of opportunities to try to take away your barriers for financial incentive to be able to do the program. I just want to plug, I know you've got other things to say, but I am so excited about this program because as you heard, you're getting credit for the work you're already doing, for the knowledge you already have, for the skills you already have. They have taken this into account, and you don't find that in a lot of programs. You don't find that in every program. So anyway, I'm very excited to be partnered with them. they are a yes group, and we like yes things. Jay Johnson and I like be able to say yes to things. And when we met with them, and it was like, sure, we'll do it, and we'll just do it. And we set one up just recently, and you know how everybody likes to take on additional work, but Dan was like, okay, yeah, we'll come meet with you, and we'll do this. So very excited about this. I think it's going to be a great partnership down the road. I'm incredibly excited for you all who have a desire to pursue professional career opportunities, to be able to have this opportunity and be able to still live your life, take care of your family, pay your rent, feed, etc. So anyway, if there's other barriers that you experience as you're going through these programs, please come talk to me. We want to try to make it as smooth as possible. And I know that some of you who pick up extra shifts now may not be able to. That could be a problem. If you're experiencing any problems, let me know. We will figure out how to work with you. Anyway, any questions about tuition reimbursement, scholarship?
I just wondered, like, I typically get financial aid, and so that means if I was to sign a contract with DRH, because I've worked here for about a year and a half, does that mean the financial aid, I wouldn't have to take out additional loans?
We'll pay the tuition. Now, there's other expenses.
Does that mean financial aid, I would just get that, and I wouldn't, that's what I'm thinking in my head. Yeah, I guess that would be a question for financial aid.
And I guess, that's something we can even talk about, because we talk about we can pay the tuition, but maybe if tuition can be paid through financial aid and we can give you money to pay your rent, we may be able to work those things out.
Yeah.
So nothing's set in stone. Get accepted. We'll talk. We'll figure out what would be the best to help you all. And it may be more individualized also for you all than a one-size-fits-all program. So we'll figure it out.
Guys, the bottom line is Southern Oklahoma needs nurses. We need RNs. Our communities need us. Our families need us. And your community has made a commitment to you. Your community has reached out to, we drove an hour and 45 minutes to get here. We have made a commitment to this community to help you guys get to where you need to be. So you're not losing money paying people who are not vested in this community. Right? So just like she said, if you guys have problems, go to her. If there are barriers to your success, you have 2 dedicated staff members who are going to help you as much as they can get to where you need to be and where you want to be and beyond. Any questions about that?
With this program being like majority online, are seats still limited for like each start?
This is what I'm going to tell you. We have made a commitment to this community. If, this is her favorite words, if 30 of you apply and are qualified to start today, we will take 30 of you. We will adjust.
And that we've made some major adjustments because we had typically the one cohort in Tishomingo that everybody, no matter where you lived, drove to take exams. You had to come to our clinical sites, and sometimes we had students driving 2 and 3 hours to get to a clinical site at 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning. So what we've tried to do is we've tried to level the playing field a little bit for you, because that's time that you don't have to be spending on the road. So we're coming to you instead of you needing to do that. With that being said, we're in the fall, and all of this is in the works with the Board of Nursing and with our accreditation agency. So that's all pending. However, we'll have the Tishomingo site that'll service the southeastern area. We'll have a site at Ardmore. We already have a site approved at Ardmore. That's traditional and career. We can have career mobility there. So for the people that live closer to Ardmore, and then we'll have the Duncan Regional site for the Lawton, Marlow, all of those areas there. So that was the commitment we made, because we're, typically in the past you saw where we first accepted 15 once a year, and then we went to 25 twice a year. And then now we're getting the qualified applicants, and we don't want to turn away qualified applicants, not because it's a financial thing for the college. I'm not a financial person, I'm a nurse. And so my goal is to make sure that if my husband, my children, my beloved grandchildren have to have care, that there's a qualified nurse to take care of them. You know, yeah, doctors, we want qualified physicians as well, but we all know that that nurse is the one that advocates, and you're going to be advocating for me, my kids, my grandkids, my husband. And so I want to make sure that you know that that's why we are so invested in this. It's not a financial gain. That's not our reason. Our reason is to make sure that Duncan Regional Hospital doesn't have 40 openings for RNs, or however many it is. That was a guess. But however many, we don't want that to happen. We've seen the facility is beautiful, the facility is vested in you, and we want to do our part as registered nurses, because guess what? We have the same RN license that you guys will have. And so we're invested in that as well.
Yes, sir.
What's the price on the challenge exam?
We will talk about that. So the challenge exam, you get direct articulation for the first semester. So you get 5 credit hours direct articulation for the first semester, which means that because you're an LPN or paramedic, and because you have to take nursing role transition, it's typically an 8 credit hour course. You take a 3 credit hour role transition, we give you direct articulation for 5 hours. And those are big words that you don't even really probably care about. But then the second semester, you either have to pay for direct articulation points, which the challenge exam is included in. And so you pay, and I'm not going to give you the exact price because I'm not a financial person, but you pay for the exam, or you pay for the direct articulation, and the exam is included if you're required to take it. So regardless of whether you have to take the exam or not, you pay the same amount. And I think that's going to be listed. If not, I'll get that to you when we start to talk.
So is the exam part of the entrance requirements, or what's the score here?
We'll talk about that on an individual basis, because it's not one of those kind of exams that I'm going to tell you have to have a minimum of this, because it's based on the safety questions and the different questions that keep our patients safe, that determine if you're a safe practitioner at the level that you're trained at right now. So that's going to be something that we'll have to look at individually as well.
Any other questions?
You're going to pass it. If you have an LPN license or a paramedic license, then you should be a safe practitioner, and you should be able to handle the exam.
So you guys all have a cost sheet in your handouts. It looks kind of sort of like this one. What you will notice is this is a pretty inexpensive program. It's pretty inexpensive, right? It's not a fluke. We're not lying. We didn't make this up just for them. This is literally how much it costs to be in a career mobility program. Sometimes I like to point out, like, it may be $1,000 less. If you already have a high-performing laptop, then I don't want you to go out and buy a brand new laptop. Okay, you just got one. There's no need to go out and purchase a new one. So then you don't have that fee. But there are, we're as upfront as we possibly can be and transparent. So I just didn't want you to go in and not know how much you're going to be paying to go to school. Okay. That's super important.
After we send out acceptance letters, after you guys apply, we go through the process and we send out acceptance letters, we will tell you the date of it'll be in July, of a pre-orientation session that we'll have, and we'll bring all those people that are accepted into the program for fall. You'll all come back in and we'll answer those individual questions about which books that do you need and those kind of things, and how to get books and all of that stuff. So you'll have a pre-orientation, and then you will have a 2-day boot camp. And it's called boot camp for a reason, because you get lots and lots of information to make you successful. And so during boot camp, that's when you realize this is what it's going to look like. This is what a learning guide looks like. This is what assignments I can expect. This is how much time I can expect to to give to that, so you'll get a really good idea of what it's going to look like.
Is online.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not just today, apply, you're in, you're going to start, because you're going to have 2 significant meetings before you start to get you on board, so you know exactly what is required.
We don't just kind of throw you to the wolves and say, okay, here's an assignment, here's a book, have at it.
And what I can tell you about the instructors that teach this course, and I taught career mobility prior to the position that I'm in now, and what I can tell you about those instructors is we realize that you're not going to contact us from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. because you may not get off work till 7 at night. So our rule of thumb is, and that's what I always say, I can count on my phone starting to ring or my email going off at 5:30, and it usually stops at about 8:30 in the evening, because that's when you have time to ask the questions. We answer your questions on the weekends. We know that you're at work and that you may have different hours. We know that some of you work at night and you don't want to answer my email in the middle of your day, which would be difficult. So we're available to you. I'm not going to say around the clock, because after 9 o'clock I turn into a pumpkin, but before that, we are available to you. On Saturdays, we're available to you. There's someone that will answer your question via text or via email whenever you need help.
We have, I like to call them come and go Zoom sessions. So I'll just hop on and be on for 2 to 4 hours, and you get a break. You just grab the Zoom link and ask your questions, or
Get a little tutoring,
whatever it is. I do it on the weekend, on Saturday, Sunday evenings, whatever, because I know my students work 3 12-hour shifts, and I got one that she works every weekend, and she works 12 hours overnight every weekend. I know I'm not going to hear from her until Wednesday. And so it just kind of, it's our commitment to you guys, to your success. It's just what we do. So again, the contact information, Deanne Pretty, she is your primary contact. She is going to be your person. Okay? If you have questions about curriculum, if you have questions about
anything Duncan Regional.
anything Duncan Regional, if you have any questions, she is your primary contact. Okay? If you cannot get a hold of her, which is very rare, after 9 o'clock, if you need anything after 9 o'clock, I sleep so light that I hear my phone at 2 a.m. and you'll text me and I'll text you back and you'll be like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to wake you. You didn't, it's fine. Don't do that. But that's just an example. So if you cannot, for whatever reason, get a hold of her, which is extremely rare, then you can get a hold of me. And if she knows she's going to be out of pocket, she'll send me a message or she'll call me and say, hey, I'm going to be unreachable, so if my students need you, they know to contact you. That's how good she is. She prepares you ahead of time that you're not going to be able to get a hold of her before X amount of time, so contact the next person. Okay?
One thing that I didn't tell you, and Malika told you her story, and I always want her to tell her story first, because people come in, and I remember when I was starting the traditional program at age 30, so I was really old compared to some of the people in the class, I felt like a fish out of water. But I wanted her to tell her story so you realize it doesn't matter what you're going through or how you got here, you're here, and we're going to take care of you. We're not going to judge how you got here. We don't care. All we want is to know that you're here, right? And that you're going to let us help you. But I'm a Murray alumni. I graduated in 1998 from Murray State College from the traditional program. I went in as an adult. My family was not of the sort that said, oh yeah, go to college. They're like, no, you have a job. You need to hang with that job. You need to work. So I did, but I always wanted to be a nurse. So I made that commitment to myself as an adult, and that's what I did. I went through it basically as a single mom of one child, and so I had to work nights and weekends to go around that traditional schedule, which is face-to-face. So I know what struggle is. Now I also know what excuses are, and I'll come up with some of that too. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. But anyway, just know that I've been through the same thing that you've been through. Murray State College has my heart. My husband graduated from Murray State Nursing. He was a respiratory therapist. He graduated from the program in 2008. And then he went on, and now he's a nurse practitioner at Choctaw Nation Emergency Room in Tallahassee. So when we say from here you can go anywhere, we mean it. I went the slow route as well. I received my associate's degree in 1998. I received my bachelor's degree from East Central in Ada in 2010. And then I received my master's in 2016 from OU. So I went the slow route as well. And then we're both about to start doctoral programs as well. So you can see, starting as a single mom, I was working 3 jobs, and my daughter thought we were rich if I had tip money in the little, what they used to be ashtrays in your car or something, really old. And then if we had quarters in there, she thought we were rich. And all I'm thinking is, I hope that's enough to get gas in my tank to get myself to where I need to be for my next job. And one day I realized that's not what I want for myself or my daughter. And I made the commitment to myself. And I had to really work hard to make it through a traditional program face-to-face back in that time. So I want you to know we know your struggles. And that's why sometimes we tell you the hard things, like if you're required to work this much now to make ends meet, and you've talked to Kristen and they can't help you enough that it may not be your time, but we will get you to your time. We have students all the time say, well, what if I'm not successful in the first semester? What happens? It's on an individual basis, but I can promise you one thing that we don't do is we don't say, oh, you missed, you're out. We don't shut a door on you. We always either give you an alternate path or some other way to be successful. We don't just shut the door on that. I hear that all the time from nursing students that weren't successful in a program. And now there's limits to the things that we can do, but I promise you we will go to the mat with you and try to help you be successful. If you're willing to be successful and you're willing to do the work, we will get you there.
What she didn't tell you guys is how much, so her daughter that was really happy because they had a change of, she graduated.
In the spring of 2022 from the Murray State College Nursing Program.
And then my daughter, who was mom while I was in school now, she is in the same program. If it wasn't what we believe in, and if it wasn't, we would not, I know personally I wouldn't be waiting because I'm one of those parents. I wouldn't be wasting my money sending her to school. Yeah, I'm one of those. I wouldn't be wasting my money sending her to school if this program is not committed to our success. Because she's a COVID senior, so you know how the COVID seniors are. I got some moms like, yeah, we know. Do you guys have any questions for us? You had great questions, don't stop them.
So I guess we're finished with the Facebook piece, other than letting them know